Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Warriors Corner for Long Range Precision Fires. Like as introduced, I'm John Rafferty, the director, and I've been in the job for about 14 months. What I want to do today is provide a brief overview of our lines of effort and then set up the panel that we have. And what we want to be able to portray to, and convey to our group here of industry partners and, interested people is that we are doing things a little bit different. And we want to be able to demonstrate that to you today. But quickly, just an update on our lines of effort. So I'll start with the strategic long-range cannon. So last year, when we talked about that here, it was just an idea. It was a good idea that we were investing a lot of, not just money, but a lot of intellectual horsepower into. And as of the last couple weeks, we accomplished the very first significant technical milestone at Dahlgren with the test of the propelling charge that went according to plan and exceeded our objectives. So we are on the path to 2023 and demonstrating the strategic long-range cannon. It shows how serious we are about strategic fires for the Army and the centrality that fires is to the multi-domain operations concept in eliminating the layered enemy standoff that separates us as a joint force at the strategic level and then separates us at echelon at the tactical level. So the strategic long-range cannon is off to a good start. As many of you know, the long-range hypersonic weapon under the leadership of General Thorogood and the Hypersonic Program Office is also on a path to delivering a prototype capability in 2023 with a lot of contracts let with mission partners over the last few months. But we remain joined at the hip with his team to write the requirement for the material and then also to further refine the operational concept working with our teammates at Fort Sill and the Fire Center of Excellence. That's a quick update on the strategic echelon. At the operational echelon, as you know, the Precision Strike Missile is our replacement to the ATACMS. The ATACMS missile is 1980s technology that we are going through a service life extension program for. So in some ways, we're paying for that missile twice or even 3 times. The Precision Strike Missile, we're going to get cheaper than ATACMS. It's going to go beyond 500 kilometers. And it's going to deliver the same lethality at 2 missiles per launch pod container. So it doubles the onboard firepower, eliminates some logistics trail, offers more flexibility to commanders in the field. We're on a path for 2 flight tests, one for our 2 competitors, one in November and one in December at White Sands Missile Range. And then we're on our way to the urgent material release in 2023. So 2023 shaping up to be a very big year for the fires community in the United States Army. And then down to the tactical level, last year 70 kilometers was a goal. It was a little bit more than a good idea, but we hadn't proven anything. And since then, we've shot 70 kilometers. You saw the 63 kilometer Excalibur target hit. And in the next couple months, we'll deliver the very first IRCA prototype out to Yuma Proving Grounds, where it'll go through our shakedown testing and then TRL-6 demo, which was really the big trigger for transferring that prototype over to the program manager for more deliberate testing. And then we go into what I think is one of the biggest themes for us for 2020, which is soldier-informed development. So as soon as this prototype goes through the Technology Readiness Level 6 demo, we're going to have cannoneers there. They're going to start immediately to provide feedback to engineers. So that first prototype should be improved on over the next 7 that we build over the next 2 years. So when we deliver this capability, the first IRCA battalion to the field in 2023, it will be soldier informed. And what they get is a capability that will make a difference on the battlefield that soldiers can get in there and operate. Over the past couple of months, we've done a lot of things that we're sort of referring to as soldier touch points. But as you add them up, you really get that development feel from it. There's a touch point here, a touch point there to answer a technical problem. But as those technical, as that feedback adds up, that's where we get into really developing a solution that our warfighters, that the operational force is connected to. And it goes beyond just the material. It really should extend across all the domains, all the .MLPF domains that deliver a capability to the field. So in August, our team went up to Fort Riley, sat with the 1st Infantry Division Artillery Commander and staff, a couple of artillery battalions, and then the 75th Field Artillery Brigade commander and his team came up from Fort Sill, and we had them fight with IRCA on a tabletop exercise. It was informed by the analysis from our analytical community from TRAC at White Sands, who set up the scenarios for it. But so we're taking our analytical basis, we're taking soldier feedback from commanders in the field, how they would fight this thing, and we are working with the Fire Center of Excellence, working across our fires community to deliver a recommendation up through General Murray and Army Futures Command to the senior leaders on how many of these things we buy and where we put them, how we're going to fight this thing. So when we come up there, that's also soldier-informed development. So that's a really big theme for us that we want to carry forward into 2020, and the IRCA Cannon is a great example of how we're doing that. So another theme for us for 2020 is how are we going to get better. And one of the ways we're going to get better is partnering more effectively with our industry partners, right? So that it's a two-way, at least for me anyway. I've learned a lot in a year, and so I think in the second year I ought to be pushing a little bit more than just pulling information, right? So I appreciate all the coaching I've gotten from our industry partners this year, and I anticipate in the second year that I'll be doing a little bit more for the program based on the experience that I've gained and the knowledge that has been shared to me by so many. But one of the things that I think is important for us to get across is that even with the best industry partners in the world, who we need for the scale of the Army, even with our science and technology community in the Army, the best in the world through the Combat Capabilities Development Center, even with our acquisition community, even with our concepts people, we don't have all the good ideas. The good ideas are out there with innovators who may not necessarily be in a position to do business with the Army, because it's hard. It takes a lot of size in your organization to be able to match up against the Army to do business. So how do we get out there and find these ideas? And so that's what we want to talk about today, is how we're getting out there for those ideas through our partnership with the Army Applications Lab, part of the AFC headquarters down at Austin, Texas. How we're partnering more effectively with academia, more focused, and so Dr. Bowersox from Texas A&M is here in order to talk about how we're giving them specific projects to work on, and how we're going to take that information and make our their knowledge, how they're going to make our systems better. And then we've got a representative from our S&T community, Rich Granitzki, who's going to talk about how we're going to take these ideas and refine them, continue to develop it through the S&T process that the Army has. And then we've got one of our acquisition partners, Colonel Tim Fuller, who's in on it from the beginning. So our technique is that there aren't any more handoffs. No more handoff from concepts over to requirements. No more hands-off from requirements over to the S&T community, over to prototypes, and then finally the acquisition community. Colonel Tim Fuller is one of my acquisition partners, is in on this from the beginning. So we've got some place for it to land. We have transition agreements and all that, but it's bigger than what's signed on a piece of paper as a transition agreement. There's ownership, there's skin in the game from the very beginning. And so what I hope that our panel, before I have to dash away, what our panel will be able to convey to our teammates here is that we are doing things differently, and that we're open for business and we want good ideas. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Tom Carrico, who's going to be our moderator for today.
All right. Well, thank you, General Rafferty. Appreciate it. So I'm Tom Carrico. I'm a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic International Studies, and it's a pleasure to be here to kind of moderate this event today. As General Rafferty mentioned, we're gonna kind of start from the research side and move over to the transition side. So that means we'll start with Dr. Rodney Bowersox from Texas A&M, and we'll move to Rich Granitzki from CCDC's, he's the S&T advisor, then Colonel Len Rosanoff for Army Applications Laboratory, and finally Colonel Tim Fuller. So Dr. Bowersox, we'll start us off, and I think you're going to need that.
Okay, so I'm here because recently, very recently, Texas A&M and the Army signed a cooperative agreement. And this agreement is focused, the overarching focus of the agreement is agile development to move technology from laboratory to the Army faster. And there are 5 topic areas that the Army was very interested in associated with this cooperative research agreement. 3 of them are related to hypersonics and directed energy, and 2 of them are related to cooperative ground and air vehicles as well as networking. And then just on Saturday, the Texas A&M system broke ground on the Bush Combat Development Center, which is another part of the cooperative agreement with the Army. And the focus of this whole program is again agile development, applying agile development methodologies to relatively disparate research topic areas, like I said, ranging from hypersonics to directed energy to air-ground vehicles, etc. And so that's our main focus, and I'll take questions on that, I guess, later today. So I'll hand it off.
Okay. Rich.
Good afternoon. My name is Rich Granitzki. I'm an LRPF S&T advisor out of Combat Capability Development Command. I am located at Armament Center up at Picatinny Arsenal, where we support all 3 of the LOEs that Colonel Rafferty shined up above, strategic, operational, and then also the tactical fires. Specifically, what we do up at CCDC, for those who may not know, is we have 8 centers and labs that are focused on developing core capabilities and technologies for the Army and S&T, working closely with the partners that you see up here on the panel, from academia at the basic research level all the way up to advanced research, looking for new partners that we haven't traditionally gone to, whether they be our big primes, many of them here, our subs, many of them here, academia walking around, innovators walking around as well that maybe haven't tied up yet what their business would be or how they get to do business with the Army, as General Rafferty had brought up before. And we reach out with all our partners in the entire Future Force modernization enterprise in order to uncover new S&T, in order to drive innovation, which is what AAL is trying to help, is drive at further innovation of the future. We do that by looking at informing what requirements could be, forecasting out what new and emerging technologies are, developing and integrating new technologies to counter new and emerging threats, and also sustaining and developing technologies for the capabilities that are already in the hands of the warfighter.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Colonel Len Rosanoff. I am an active duty Army officer, 28 years right now. I am the director of the Army Applications Lab. We're about 38 folks, a mix of contractors, DA civilians, and folks just like me in Austin, Texas. We work in an accelerator, incubator called Capital Factory downtown Austin. So if you're ever there, open door. In fact, our garage door stays open pretty much all day long. So if you're ever in Austin, please come by and see us. Instead of starting with the mission, let me start with the problem. My organization is a problem organization. And the problem we're trying to figure out and to solve right now is how do we engage with solution providers that are out there somewhere that potentially have a solution to a problem that's important to the Army that we just don't know about. And then once we find that, how do we make it a lot easier for that solution provider to work with folks like us in DoD? And I'll tell you folks, and probably preaching to the choir here, it's not easy. It is cumbersome, it's slow, and if your livelihood depends on it, well, that's probably not good. And in that white space, other folks can come in and deploy capital very quickly in order to gain that solution. So we're trying to break down from a speed perspective and make it easier to work with DoD. We'll talk a little bit about our innovative ways and our approaches in order to do that throughout this panel.
Hey, good afternoon. Colonel Tim Fuller, PM Armored Fighting Vehicles. Included in the Armored Fighting Vehicles portfolio is the M109 family of vehicles, the self-propelled howitzer system. Also included is the YRCA, the Extended Range Cannon Artillery. We're part of PEO CGS, led by General Cummings. We're located in Detroit, Michigan, and we get to enjoy co-location with a number of our partners that are there. We're co-located with our LCMC, with TACOM. We're co-located with our contracting command that's there, and we're co-located with our vehicle center, S&T Center, formerly TARDEC, that's there. We also have folks out in Picatinny that are co-located with the Armament Center. Together as a team, we bring world-class combat vehicle acquisition experience to deliver design, produce, field combat weapon systems to the soldier. And we're doing that in traditional ways and means, and we're doing that in non-traditional ways and means, which I'm happy to talk about as we move on.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Before we open up to questions from the audience, there'll be a mic going around for that. Let me just ask each of you to kind of give one example of how you're leveraging commercial innovation, how you're leveraging cutting edge science and technology within your respective lanes. Maybe work with you, Colonel Fuller, and come on back down the line.
Sure, so that gets into some of our traditional and non-traditional means, some of the resources that we're using as a PM. And first off, the traditional folks that we're using are, of course, our organic industrial base. And we have many of the partners that we're used to seeing, from Water Valete to the CCDC folks and the ACC folks that are helping us out. But we also have our non-traditional partners that we're partnering with, which is right next to me, AAL, which is getting after a broader audience for us as the PM to look at some different ways to look at our problems and to get solutions out there.
Hey, just to expand on that, so in Army Applications Lab, we start with the problem. We are problem focused, not requirement focused. But in order to do that, you've got to do exactly what you see on the stage right now, and that's align mission partners in order to scale into the Army effectively and to leverage all the non-traditional and traditional solvers out there that have solutions to a problem. And it requires this type of panel. So really, I think fundamentally what you're seeing right now on the stage is what the Army is doing differently. And I'll take it a step further. I believe that without Army Futures Command standing up right now, our ability to sit on a stage like this and actually work in a synergistic effect, which we are, is absolutely non-existent. And here's what I mean by that. Army Futures Command provides unity of command and unity of effort that allows folks like myself and Tim, Rodney and Rich to work together from the start. And I'll drill down a little bit more into that as well. So if you start with a problem and bring in folks from the acquisition community, the big A, S&T, and even academia, Phil Perconte out here somewhere, foundational science, and work together around a problem, well, you've got something here. And it's a little bit different than anything we've ever attempted to do in the Army. And personally, my opinion, I believe that doesn't happen without Army Futures Command standing up. That gives us that unity of command and prioritization.
So from CCDC perspective, and also up at Armaments, we have our traditional ways of finding new, novel technologies, approaches, ideas, leveraging small business offices, which there are a lot of seminars going on this week about, looking for cooperative research and development agreements in order to get at newer ideas as well, and try to firm them up before we figure out where they may be going. But selfishly, because of the way the Army has put a focus on modernization efforts, it has also freed up our ability to go and expand and look out to who is coming forward and asking questions. There are a lot of people who didn't see that the door was as open as it is, because you heard earlier General Rafferty saying it is a little hard to do business sometimes with the government. But the roadshow, if you will, of the modernization priorities and the outreach associated with that is bringing in more ideas and innovators and setting up new business meetings where people get to flush out their ideas and talk a little bit more about how they can work with us and mature their idea forward. And that's really the opportunities that we have in S&T, and being able to find what the next thing is and what the next great ideas are formulating right now.
Okay, so I guess my perspective is a little different. We're on the side being leveraged in this process. And I will echo the sentiment that working with the Army through this new process that we have, we're working with ARL and Army Futures Command. And there is a little bit of a culture difference for us in academia to do this, but we're making great strides. And I think having a demand signal flow all the way down to academia is helpful in terms of identifying what research we should be doing and how we can leverage that research, or how the Army can leverage that research.
Great. Well, we may come back to that. At this point, let's open up to questions from the audience. We've got a microphone over here, so if you maybe raise your hand, we'll have it brought over to you. I see some defense press. This is, after all, the Army's #1 modernization priority. Who wants to breaking defense here? If you wouldn't mind just sort of stating your name and Go ahead.
Colin Clark, Breaking Defense. So far you guys have told us sort of the standard Army acquisition, how we're changing thing. Give us an example each of a company you've actually brought in that didn't do business with the Defense Department before and is doing something interesting for you. Can you do it?
Is it Colin? Yep. Hey, Colin. Len Rosanoff. Let me try it. Taking a stab at that. So there's ways of getting at solution providers, right? We can do a pitch competition. And you've probably seen them all. So in conjunction with my colleagues up here, we are putting on something we'll call the Army Capability Accelerator. Probably nothing in fact, how many people have applied to the autonomous resupply cohort in the audience? Anyone? Hey, why don't you come up here and tell us about it? Come on up, Tom, get up here. Hey, why don't you tell everyone what we are and who we are? And this is not scripted, by the way, so let's have someone answer it instead of me.
We got an extra mic here.
Tom, why don't you tell them who you are and what you are and tell us about the application process and what you hope to achieve if selected.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Tom with Roman Aerospace. So we're working on autonomous resupply vehicles, and in this case, applying them to the field artillery autonomous resupply problem. And this cohort, so we applied online, and this accelerator type of application lets small companies reach out to connect with the Army in ways that are a lot faster and easier to connect than usual. So the website has the application, and through this cohort, startups get to, through I believe it's a 12-week program, get to talk to end users to define problems, which, an end user? Decision makers in the Army trying to solve this exact problem, and how these solutions could affect or apply to other problem areas and modernization priorities.
So to continue down, what Tom's describing is a 12-week program that we just concluded. We have 88 applications to join a 12-week cohort, which out of the 88, we'll select 10 companies to go through an AEL 10-week or 12-week program that has touch points with us 2 weeks out of the 12 weeks, and then really what makes this a little bit different, it connects folks like Tom, if selected, to the end user for a week. We'll put them in the field, we'll put them in with a field artillery soldier, and they will iterate on what the problem is. We believe that out of the 5 cities that we went to in order to talk about this problem, 5 cities engaged with 400 plus companies, that we were able to scope this down to a problem that can allow us to pick out of 88 companies, 10 companies that could potentially develop a concept design paper that can help inform the folks sitting on this stage. That's not anything that I've ever heard done before. I hope it works. It'll be the first time we've done it, and we're probably going to learn a lot. We learn every day. But that's happening right now. The application process just closed. I think it spanned 23 states, Porter? 24 states. Fairly significant change in the way we're doing business in order to get after coming up with solutions. Colin, does that answer your question?
Colonel Fuller, you want to take that?
Sure. On the acquisition side, as the PM, as we cross over, really the best way to answer that is the fact that we're here right now talking to each other, the fact that we've been under the leadership of General Rafferty for as long as we have with CFT, the fact that I'm involved as early as I am with my S&T community, and the fact that I know who this gentleman is from AAL, and I'm able to influence and talk to AAL and say, I'm going to have these problems when I look out at my ACT strategy, and I need you to start working on that now, and I need you to go out and find me some innovative ideas and folks. And when I talk to the S&T communities, it's the same thing. As I timeline out my ACT strategy and see my goals and my gaps of what's being worked and what's not being worked, right now, much earlier on, I'm in communication with the Armament Center as well as the Vehicle Center, influencing what they're doing, having those conversations with them. And at this point, where we're at in the Life Cycle Ed project, it's AAL, it's the S&T communities that are out there letting those contracts, bringing in those smaller firms. But having me on the much earlier side is very different from my experience base, and it's, as General Rafferty spoke, it's killing that valley of death, and it's that giant overlap that we have between S&T and PM that's smoothing out. Yeah, it's that automated resupply right now. So, you know, when I look at the IRCA, that's the additional solution, one that's very near and dear to my heart right now that AAL is looking out for us.
Okay.
In the 5 cities we went to, we had reps from PEO, from General Cummings, PEO M&S. So what we're describing isn't theoretical. As we're in, say, Pittsburgh, for example, we've got Major Mueller on our team helping inform how we're engaging with the solver community. So it's happening.
Yeah, and I would just echo that. If I think the roadshow closed, at least for right now, but it was open to anyone. It was pretty much an open door. And if you went there, you would see traditional contractors there mingling and discussing ideas, because a prime is what's going to get this into the field going forward, but it is what are those ideas that they can pull in. Ground Vehicle Systems Centers, Armament Center was there as well, in order to see, all right, is there something that could be leveraged in an existing S&T now that might not quite be ready? So I made the comment before about being a little selfish in that people are already coming to AAL, and I'm able to leverage that. So that's one good example. People are seeing that Kratos are a great opportunity in order to get things a little bit more. Same thing, use of DOTSI. So some traditional vehicles as well that we've done. But right now, the influx of what AAL's roadshow across those 5 different cities has brought to the team is pretty substantial right now.
Okay, we've got Tony Capaccio.
Hi, Tony Capaccio with Bloomberg News. For Colonel Fuller, given the integration challenges that you've had with the autoloader on the PIM and the Paladin right now, what are some of the technological issues you're going to have to deal with, or you project for the extended range cannon that you'll have to grapple with before you can get it fielded?
Well, Tony, I appreciate you not asking me a PIM question. I fully expected you to start.
Isn't the Paladin the test bed for the extended range? So
yeah.
What are the technological problems?
Issues? That's it. So actually, I'll start there with the PIM. As you may or may not know, the Army's modernization strategy for the self-propelled howitzer is in phases. The first phase going from the M109A6 to the A7 PIM, which we're currently producing and fielding right now, is the base. And we rely on the PIM for IRCA Increment 1 and IRCA Increment 2. So PIM's being fielded today, PIM's being introduced in the field today, and PIM is going to be the platform. It's really the waistline down, the belt down, that is that platform for IRCA 1, Increment 1, and IRCA Increment 2. Next, we'll see IRCA Increment 1 introduced. That'll largely be a lethality upgrade, and that'll introduce the new cannon on the system, but not the autoloader with it. And then right follow up from that will be the autoloader that you described. And of course, when you introduce an autoloader into a pre-existing chassis that we have with the PIM, there are all sorts of technological risks involved to that. And it's much more challenging as we introduce the autoloader, as the autoloader not only just adds an autoloader, but it also adds an entire new cab to the vehicle, as it's the cab that's going to be hosting the automated ammunition handling area for it. So it's a much larger effort than it sounds when you say, oh, we're going to put an autoloader as the Increment 2 than it is. So absolutely, there's risks inherent in that just increase.
No, I would add to that even though we had, if those who haven't been upstairs, there's actually an IRCA test bed up there as well, so you can actually see one of the first prototypes of what we were testing out there, and the learning opportunities that we have to try to drive down some of the risks to make it a more seamless transition is kind of been highlighted over the years. You saw the videos that happened before from last year, again, being done on an A6 chassis there. And going forward, for the autoloader, we had a limited capacity autoloader test that happened back in June. So that way we were able to flush out what happened or work out the software, work out some of the hardware components that is going to inform what the full capacity one will be when that demonstrator comes online shortly. Both along the way, as General Rafferty had said before, having that soldier engagement right after the first prototype is built is going to be key to further drive down the risks of what we end up fielding.
I'm going to go back to you, Colin, too. I want to talk about soldiers for a second, because we talk a lot about that, and I know General Rafferty mentioned it. How do we iterate with soldiers? Well, let me tell you a story. When we kicked this cohort off, this accelerator off, it started in Austin, and what we did is, and really what's important here is we had General Rafferty here talking about the problem. And I think what really kind of kicked it off for the solver community, all the non-traditionals and traditionals that were present, were having soldiers present with a dummy round, 97-pound dummy round. Imagine that. So having two soldiers get up on a stage and talk to the solvers out there that, well, what's the problem? Let me tell you what the problem is. Pick up this 97-pound dummy round, take it about 200 meters under fire in your full kit during the summer. Let's go. Let's talk. That was a game changer for AAL. That woke us up on the power of bringing soldiers into the problems from the very beginning. Since then, in each one of the cities, we did exactly that. And that connection to the soldier becomes extremely powerful, folks. That's what we're doing differently.
Rodney, can I get you to maybe describe some of the cool facilities you got at Texas A&M and what you're kind of doing, since the crowd wants some specifics here?
Yes. As part of the cooperative agreement, we are establishing some large-scale hypersonic wind tunnel testing, as well as some large-scale directed energy testing. And the basic idea is to span laboratory and large-scale testing. So this is sort of fills that gap there, and that's some of the main things. But also on our Rellis campus, which is it's a 2,000-acre campus next to Texas A&M, but it's part of, it used to be the Bryan Army Air Corps base. A little bit of trivia, Buzz Aldrin got his wings there. There's also going to be a proving ground there, an integrated proving ground, which is going to be it's going to be an instrumented range for with networking, 5G capable, looking at resilient networks, looking at ground-air vehicle cooperation. So these are some of the changes that are coming, and this of course couples back to sort of the basic research infrastructure that we have on campus, which is also fairly extensive in these same topic areas.
Okay. Well, why don't I close it out by kind of going back to the big picture that General Rafferty talked about, saying we want ideas, we're open for business and all that. You mentioned the online accelerator program, but if folks have those big ideas, how do they find you guys? How do they get to you?
Well, I'll start from the S&T community. The first part that I would say is look up a local center. So we have 8 centers and labs. We have Ground Vehicle Systems Center, C5 ISR, Armament Center, Data Analysis Center, Aviation and Missile Center, ARL, ECBC. We all have websites. They all say contact us. They all talk about how to do business with us. You can go to Combat Capability Development Command's website as well. Those are the first opportunities to be able to just, let's set up a business meeting. Let's talk. Let's see what your ideas are. Let's find out what we can do going forward. We'll worry about, what contract mechanisms might be available in the future, how we can solidify that from there. But first, let's have a discussion. That's the first way in.
Open invite, Austin, Texas. Not a bad place, folks. Seriously, if you're ever in Austin, Texas, come to the Capitol Factory, 8th floor, and our door will most likely be open unless we're hosting a delegation, which we tend to get a lot of lately, but our door's open. Other than that, aal.army, aal.army. It is probably the most intuitive website you're going to find out there, and it's not perfect, and it's going to get a lot better, and it's got our technology focus areas that we're interested in. In the future, we'll have problems, specific problems we're trying to solve on it as well, aal.army.
Well, I can't offer you Austin, Texas. I can offer you luxury locations like Detroit or Picatinny, New Jersey. But we'll start hosting industry days, the first of which will be this quarter for IRCA. And that first industry day will be in Picatinny, New Jersey. And we'll advertise in our traditional places on Fed BizOps, but we'll also leverage our team to advertise in non-traditional places, especially using AAL's Rolodex that they have.
College Station's pretty exotic as well. So, okay. Well, thanks everybody. I think this kind of wraps us up. Appreciate all your time, Rodney, Rich, Tim, and Len. Thank you all for being here. I also have to say that tomorrow morning at 11:30, General Rafferty is going to be back for a media roundtable. That's with General Rafferty and Rich Granitzki, if I'm not mistaken, in room 205. So thanks, everybody, for coming out, and thanks to the panel.